So Pete Buttigieg joined the Pod Save America podcast to talk about a lot of different issues, but one of the issues that he spoke about was the situation in Gaza. And so wanted to do a little bit of reaction to that conversation and to the wider, space that we find ourselves in when people are talking about the situation in Gaza.
One issue that's increasingly dividing both parties is the war in Gaza. More than half of Senate Democrats just voted to oppose the sale of over $500 million worth of U.S. bombs and guns to Israel. A lot of them are longtime supporters of Israel. Would you have voted to oppose sending those weapons?
I think we need to insist that if American taxpayer funding is going to weaponry that is going to Israel, that is not going to things that shock the conscience. And look, we see images every day that shock the conscience. So much of this is complicated, but what's not complicated is that if a child is starving because of a choice made by a government, that is unconscionable. And I think especially including voices who care about Israel, who believe in Israel's right to exist, who have stood with Israel in response to the unbelievable cruelty and terrorism of October 7th.
So a few things here. One, it's an interesting turn of phrase to say unconscionable and shock the conscience, because he's talking about starvation, but he doesn't seem to focus on the genocide and the war crimes and the crimes against humanity in the same way, right? This has been nearly 2 years of endless, widespread, and systematic bombardment of the civilian population, forcing nearly the entire population of Gaza to be displaced. Nearly every single home has been damaged or destroyed. People have been displaced multiple times. And yes, now they're starving, but they're only starving because Israel destroyed their entire population, the entire homeland. Destroyed their food supplies, is preventing aid from getting in, destroyed the water supplies, all of these things. So it's more than just shocking the conscience. It's deliberate, targeted violence against the civilian population, which amounts to genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. It is what it is. And to only, again, similar to other people, to only focus on the food insecurity and the starvation is a choice. It's a purposeful choice. Like he's saying, it's a choice for the government of Israel to not starve the people. It was also a choice to not bomb the entire Gaza Strip.
I think there's a reason why so many of those voices are speaking up now too, because this is not just something that is on its face and in itself a moral catastrophe. It is also a catastrophe for Israel for the long run.
I think it's an interesting point to say that, the current situation is a catastrophe for Israel in the long run. There's some that have made the argument that continuing down this path for Israel would result in Israel becoming more of a pariah state and threaten its existence. I would argue that any government, any country that is committing this gross violations of human rights, committing genocide, committing war crimes, committing crimes against humanity, should become a pariah state. It should be met with sanctions and diplomatic ties that are cut off and trade that's cut off and boycotts and things like this. And yet that isn't happening. No major Western nation has sanctioned the government of Israel or the individuals in the government. And when the International Criminal Court opened investigations and indicted Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, the United States responded by sanctioning the International Criminal Court. And, throughout these 2 years of war, the United States has been providing the arms that allows Israel to commit this genocide. And so the United States, in many ways, is complicit in this genocide as well. And yet, in other places around the world, the United States has tried to speak out against these same kinds of acts. And yet, here we are, supporting them because it's Israel.
How do you think the next administration should handle our relationship with Israel? Do you think it should change based on what Netanyahu has done the last several years?
Well, certainly Netanyahu can't be the only voice or the only compass for what should happen in the U.S.-Israel relationship. And no matter how strongly, or especially because of how strongly you might believe in Israel's right to exist and defend itself, you don't have to make excuses for the choices that Netanyahu is making, especially because they are often made not only in the name of the Israeli people, but in the name of a U.S. alliance. I think that we, as Israel's strongest ally and friend, you put your arm around your friend when there's something like this going on and talk about what we're prepared to do together. It certainly cannot be what we see right now from this administration and this president talking about beachfront property in Gaza before he's prepared to talk about human suffering in Gaza.
Can somebody remind me what administration did Pete Buttigieg serve in? I believe it was the Biden administration. And I believe it was the Biden administration that provided the arms to Israel during the height of the bombing that killed at least 60,000 people plus, probably, in Gaza. And so, to use Pete's analogy, like put your arm around your friend. Well, putting the arm around a friend was Biden wrote them a blank check to commit genocide. Trump is endorsing the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people in Gaza. Nothing basically is being done in the West Bank. The fact that we can still call Israel a friend while they're committing genocide and while the United States is arming them to be able to commit that genocide is frustrating and disgusting, frankly. And it's interesting that Pete is only focusing on Trump's comments about beachfront property and is making no mention of the fact that in the administration that he served, the government at that time gave significant bombing and weaponry to Israel to continue this atrocious violations of human rights and international humanitarian law, and blocked several UN Security Council resolutions condemning the atrocities that Israel was committing. Sounds like a great friend.
Do you think it's time to recognize a Palestinian state?
I think that's a profound question that arouses a lot of the biggest problems that have happened with Israel's survival, or Israel's right to survival in the diplomatic scene. And many of the people who have taken that step historically have done so for different reasons than what we see happening with European countries. I think we need to step back and we need to do whatever it takes to ensure that there is a real two-state solution and that no one, not even the likes of Netanyahu, can veto the international community's commitment to a two-state solution where you have Palestinians and Israelis living with safety, with security, with rights. I believe that can happen, but we have to actually show some commitment to it.
It's interesting that so many people frame this as Israel's right to exist and the right of the state of Israel to exist. But Palestinians don't have that same right. They don't have the same right to self-determination, to their own homeland, to their own democracy, to their own government, to their own safety and security. And for Pete to say that it's a profound question and we need to figure out how to get to a two-state solution, even so that Netanyahu can't veto it. They've been building settlements, illegal settlements, across the West Bank to ensure that a two-state solution will never happen. What have we done about that? Nothing. Nothing is the answer. The answer is nothing. We've been doing nothing about that. Nothing but continue to give a green light to Israel to continue what they're doing, because we keep sending them arms, we keep sending them support, we keep blocking UN Security Council resolutions at the United Nations. So what are we actually doing to ensure a two-state solution is possible? Nothing. We're doing the opposite. We're helping to ensure that a two-state solution is impossible. And, obviously with Gaza as well, right? Helping the Israeli government destroy and annihilate Gaza has made it almost impossible for a two-state solution to exist. And yet somehow Pete says he believes that it's possible. How is it going to be possible, sir? Please explain. Please explain, especially when you're not willing to call out the genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity directly that Israel is perpetrating. I think we're at a time that this is a real reckoning for a lot of people. And the fact that we still, after nearly 2 years of this genocide, cannot be honest about what's happening and cannot understand that after decades of Israel purposely blocking any chance of a two-state solution, including Netanyahu, who has said directly that he wants to block it, that we throw this term around two-state solution as if it's a real possibility. Right now, it's not. And there's no one more to blame besides the hardliners in Israel than the United States government, from multiple administrations, providing the cover, the support, and the blanket, green light to Israel to do whatever they wanted to do to ensure that a two-state solution was never going to happen, including the current genocide that we're watching right now. I think if Democrats have any hope of ever having any kind of moral authority, moral high ground, moral clarity, ever pretend to say that they care about human rights and human dignity, if this is the best that we've got, we're in for serious hurting, because that's not enough. We need more from people like Pete and others. And I don't think we have it. I think, unfortunately, many politicians are not willing to speak out and say what's what. And we can't expect to be leaders in the world and claim to be leaders in, of human rights and freedom and human dignity if we can't effectively say that what Israel is doing is wrong, that the United States should not be allies with countries that are committing gross violations of human rights and mass atrocities. That should be like the bare minimum. It should be the bare minimum requirement. Your country is not committing mass atrocities, and yet we call Israel our strongest ally, committing some of the worst human rights abuses and atrocities we've seen in recent memory. It's shameful. It really is.